All right, everybody. So thanks for tuning in. This time we're taking a jump back until the wee days of our existence, and we're going back into the late 70s. I was trying to think if we've talked about any other George Romero movies on here at all.
Did we do Night?
I don't think we did. Night of the Living Dead. We did Creepshow, so I guess that counts. We did Creepshow too.
Right. You know, you and I aren't really zombie fans, to be honest with you. That's not our subgenre.
So, but this episode we are talking about 1978's Dawn of the Dead.
You know, I was a late bloomer to this film. I did not see this back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I mean like growing up as a kid. Like I just said, I was never a zombie guy. Really, the only zombie movie, well, outside of Michael Jackson's Thriller, which I was into back in the day, but the only zombie movie that I thought was that I was in that I wouldn't say into, but I'd say like I thought was good was the original 1968 Night of the Living Dead. And I remember the first time I saw that, just being like, "Whoa, that was crazy! I can't believe I watched that on TV," because I watched it on like probably like the USA Network or something where they play horror movies all night, and it really kind of stuck with me. And I really knew nothing about the series or Romero's involvement in terms of which ones were his sequels. And I know they did like there was the Dead movies like Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and then there were the Living Dead movies like Return of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, etc. I know that there was some sort of split after Night of the Living Dead came out. And, and now looking back, it's like, I've kind of, I know I have seen all of his films. I've seen like, Night, Dawn, Day, what is it? Land of the Dead. And was that the end of his? Did he do another one or?
Yeah, he did Diary of the Dead. And then,
maybe I didn't see them all then.
And then there's another one. There's another Dead one after that I don't think he did at all, but
okay.
He did. Yeah, he did. Survival of the Dead in 2009.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I did see the original trilogy. I guess like when you think of like the Romero trilogy, it's like the original trilogy before he came back and started redoing them or doing the newer ones. It was Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and then Day of the Dead. That's kind of like the vintage classic thing. So now we're in the second, movie, and I remember the first time I saw it. Actually, you know what? That's funny. I don't remember the first time I saw it. I was about to say I remember the first time when I purchased it. It was actually in October, and I remember driving to the local Kmart before they went out of business, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? I need to get some horror movies." And you know how these department stores always have the horror movies out on display in October. So they did have Dawn of the Dead, and I grabbed it then, and I believe I saw it previously to that, but I probably rented it. But then watched it, and I was like, it really sort of connected with me. I was like, I probably had I have seen this when I was like, 9 or 10 years old, it would have probably become like more of a classic in my opinion. But I was kind of a late bloomer to it. But I did enjoy it. First time I saw it, I thought it was good, and it's still probably up there for me in zombie films, even though I'm not a huge zombie film. That's just not my subgenre. Yeah,
I can't remember the first time I saw it. Man, I know I've seen it a number of times, but I have like, it's weird. It's one of those things where I have like no recollection of seeing it before the last time I've seen it, if that makes sense. It was never one of those movies, evidently, to where it struck such a nerve where you're like, wow, that was so great. And what's funny is about the whole Night of the Living Dead and then that series, and then when it broke off, and I'm sure there's people out there that know the whole story and stuff. I've never really known the whole story. I do know that with the original Night of the Living Dead, something happened with it where the rights ended up going to public domain. And I don't know if that had something to do with it before, like when Romero finally got the rights back to where he was only able to get rights to the dead instead of living dead. I have no idea. But, it's kind of funny. I actually have more vivid memories of when the Living Dead movies started coming out in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to these ones. Because me and one of our buddies, we went and saw
Part 2.
Return of the Living Dead Part 2 or 3 or something. Yeah, with his mom took us and she bought tickets and then she went home and we watched the movie. But the good old 80s. But it's kind of funny is I actually do like Night of the Living Dead. Just it's one of those movies that, being a horror fan, it's kind of like, I'm not going to say it's the same as Psycho. But it's one of those movies to where, being a horror fan, that you just have an appreciation for it, for what it is, which is probably a little hypocritical for me to say that because of those classics that if you're going to say you're a horror fan, then you would have to say that you have to enjoy. You have Psycho, you have The Night of the Living Dead, and then you probably should throw The Exorcist in there as well, but I hate The Exorcist, so we'll just leave that one off of the list. But I would say if you're going to break this down into kind of the original first 3 or the original trilogy of the Dead series, so you had Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and then Day of the Dead. I love Night of the Living Dead, but I think I actually like Day of the Dead the most out of all of the Dead movies. More than Dawn of the Dead.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead I would go as far as to say that while it is enjoyable for what it is, I don't think it's aged very well.
No, I agree with you. It doesn't have that. It definitely feels like it's stuck in time. Like both the soundtrack, which is very, very late 70s, early 80s. I mean, it's like completely, like totally, what's that word where it's like stuck in time? It's like it's a product of its time. Also, the gore effects, which is kind of funny because this is a Tom Savini film, and actually Tom Savini does a cameo in this film as one of the bikers. The gore effects are very like 80s, the fake blood, the whole, pre-CGI, very rubbery looking skin. But at the same time, there's sort of a quality to that, or there's a charm to that, where it's like, it's all practical effects, exploding heads and everything like that. And you're right. It's definitely a product of its time. It definitely feels like a late 70s, early 80s film. And also, one of the things too about the gore effect, I don't know if you noticed, it really seemed like, for whatever reason, the blood in this film seemed like a strange color. It seemed like it was a little too light. Like usually blood is more of a darker red. This seemed like more of had a orange red kind of color to it. Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's when we say like beer and popcorn movies, like this is almost on the whatever you want to say, the downside of that or the bad side of that, to where it's almost hard to watch at times.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, it's.
See, I would disagree with that. I don't think it, like, to me, it's like, it's definitely dated, and it definitely feels dated, but at the same time, I can get into it. Like, I like, every time I watch it, it's like, you have to get past some of that dated, like, music and some of the, the outfits and the whole 70s thing, but once you kind of, like, once you're, like, I'm in that universe, I'm there, and I'm okay with it. And I must say, like, Ken Faree as Peter, I thought he was great in this film. As like one of the main characters. I think he's great. I think the idea of doing it in a shopping mall, around this time, this was like, when they were just starting to blow up and become this huge thing. I thought that was brilliant. I mean, like, it's such a perfect location to film a movie like this. And that kind of brings me back too, because, shopping malls aren't really a big thing anymore. But back then, I mean, back when we were growing up, that was like shopping malls were like, that's what you did.
You know what's crazy about that is there is a mall about 2 miles from the office that I work in. And I go there every once in a while over lunch. And that mall is thriving like crazy. It's insane.
Maybe they're making a comeback.
No, I don't think it is. I just think it's weird because it's real close to a high school. And there's open campus at that high school. So there's always a bunch of kids over there at lunchtime. But, yeah, there's 2 empty stores. Well, there's a couple of, like, the big box stores that are gone. Like, Sears is gone out of there now. And then Macy's or something was there, and they ended up closing down. But as far as, like, the little stores, like, in the mall, there's, like, 1 or 2 open spots, and they're, like, getting ready to open back up. It's weird, because when I started that job earlier this year, that was one of the things I was like, dude, I'm like, that mall's still going? Everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's going strong. And then, like, but it's because it's great for lunchtime because they have a food court.
No, that's cool.
And then, so, like, especially like this time of year, you go over there, grab a sandwich or whatever, a slice of pizza, make a couple of laps around the mall, and go back to work, get some exercise in. But I digress, I guess. Not to take it too far off topic, but yeah, it was one of those things because my old job, I used to travel, and I remember going. I might have told this. I know. I think I've told you this before. I was in Southern Illinois, and there was a mall there, and there was a record store that was in the mall.
Oh, that's weird.
And I went to the record store, but I remember it was so weird because, like, walking into this mall, there was, like, I think there was a McDonald's it was like a McDonald's or a Taco Bell. That was the only restaurant that was open in the food court. And then, like, walking through the mall, there was people in the mall, like, walking around, but there was all these empty stores in there, and the record store was open, and then there was, like, a Spencer's that was open.
Oh, that's funny.
And then there was, like, a jewelry store. And then the rest of the mall was just empty. It was so weird.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's weird. It's weird how that's gone down big time, like the whole mall scene. But yeah, I mean, like with this film, probably to me, like, again, I'm not a zombie fan, and I will say, like, I do enjoy Night of the Living Dead. And I think probably if you were to, like, ask me, what's your favorite zombie film, I would have to throw in Night of the Living Dead. But I think this one would be the one that I followed it with. Like, I'm not none of the new stuff, like, like the 20 however days later, and
sure,
Dawn of the Dead remake. All of these newer zombie films that are out there, Resident Evil, none of them, it's just like I kind of pan them. It's just not my thing. So, but going back and watching this one, I will say, like, it's really not my, like, I'd much rather watch like a Friday the 13th film or a slasher film than a zombie movie. But this is one of those films that every time I watch it, I'm entertained. And I'm not saying like it's one of my favorite horror films, because it's not. But I think it goes with the beer and popcorn thing, and like, how we kind of rate films based on what type of beer, what type of popcorn you would be enjoying while watching it. I wouldn't go with like the $2 Natty Light 30 pack. I would go with probably I'd bump it up to if I was Dawn of the Dead night, okay, I'll grab like I'll go with some PBR, and maybe I'll get some some decent quality cheesy popcorn to enjoy with it. So I don't consider this like bottom of the barrel C level film.
Oh, I forgot that we were doing that. Now that you said that, I remember that we were doing that. So I'm going to rate it.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going with. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
So I'm still going to say it's a beer and popcorn movie. It's still watchable.
Yeah. Okay.
But this is a 15-pack of Keystone Light, which I think is $6.99. Well, depending on where you live at.
All right.
And then sometimes you go to like Walmart, or sometimes they'll have it like at the grocery stores where they'll have like the giant $2.99 like family size pre-popped popcorn, and it's like a 5-pound bag of like this, giant bag of popcorn.
Yeah.
So you get that. So you have $3 invested in your popcorn. You have your $6.99 15-pack of beer. So you're in at just under $10. And then you find this movie on YouTube or on Amazon Prime, or Netflix or something you're already paying for. So you're only getting $10 into this thing. And then,
too funny.
So now this is what you got to do. So then you drink 7 of those beers before you start the movie. And then you start the movie as you're cracking open the 8th beer. And you start chowing on the popcorn.
Oh, gosh.
And then you drink a beer. Let's see here. What's it, like 100 minutes? No, this movie's a long one. It was like 2 hours long, if I remember right.
2 hours and 7 minutes.
So you drink, you got 8 beers. So you're drinking a beer like every, 20 minutes or so. So then you still have a few beers left at the end of the movie to kind of drown your sorrows away. It's kind of like, did I waste 2 hours of my life or not?
Oh man, you're rough on this one. Yeah, to me, it's like definitely to the level of PBR where it's a decent beer, but I'm not gonna, it's not that much. Yeah, I think this is a pretty quality classic horror film. I put this up there with. Again, I'm not a big zombie guy, but I think if you're into the horror, the zombie subgenre, this is a must see. I mean, this is this one basically took Night of the Living Dead and took it to the next level. It really did. And whereas Day of the Dead, that's like a whole other. It's kind of funny. Like now that I think of those 3 movies. It almost is in my opinion, in a kind of cheesy way. It's sort of like the same comparison I would have with the first 3 Alien movies. Like you've got the original Alien, which is a classic. You really can't judge that. You can't change that one. Whereas Night of the Living Dead is a classic, and I don't think it's quite as on the same level as the original Alien, but at the same time, it's one of those game changer type films. And then you've got the sequel, Aliens. And it's it totally changes everything and turns it into a something a whole different thing. But it's just as good, if not better than the original. And the same thing with Dawn of the Dead. It's to me, it's it kind of does the same thing. It's it sort of turns the whole thing on its head, and it's more action and more exciting in its own way. And it's almost very comparable to the original in terms of quality. And then they cap it off with the trilogy. You've got Alien 3, which was kind of a letdown, but it still has its moments. And in my opinion, same thing with Day of the Dead. It's it's kind of a letdown, but it still has its moments. So I don't know. To me, it's very, very comparable to that. Going just the first 3 Alien films.
Yeah,
but I would do you said this was an Amazon film. Or no, you said it was a YouTube film. Don't even pay for it.
Yeah,
I would say
get it for free.
I would say I would categorize this one just as the way I watched it. It's a DVD film. It's one that I own on DVD, but I have no desire to upgrade to Blu-ray. So that's
if you're going to have it on DVD, you have to get it in a compilation set that has a movie in there that you're willing to pay for.
Yeah, I hear you. I probably didn't. I probably paid less than $10 for it when I got it.
Okay, so that's not too bad.
But that was about a decade ago, I think. But anyhow,
yeah, I have it on VHS, and I think that the copy I have on VHS, I think it was one I picked up at a thrift store. So
oh, nice.
I probably paid 50 cents or $1 for it.
Well, that ain't bad. Is that what you watched it on? Do this?
Yep. And I will say, too, the one thing I will say about the Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead is, I know we've went probably kind of full circle on the whole remake, reboot thing on here. We've beat it in the ground a bunch of times. It probably goes a little bit back to the fact where we were just talking about, to where, for the most part, zombie movies, I could live without them, really. Like you said, if somebody said, hey, do you want to watch any other movie, or do you want to watch this zombie movie? I'd be like, oh, yeah, let's watch anything else, for the most part.
Yeah.
But for the remakes of Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, I don't actually mind either one of those. Night of the Living Dead was directed by Tom Savini, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen that version yet.
And I will actually go out on a limb here and say that Dawn of the Dead is slightly better than the original, the remake.
Really? Okay. Yeah, see, to me, the remake is too 2000s. It's just too much of that. I don't know. Whatever. It's just, I know that was kind of like the beginning of the remakes, was with that Dawn of the Dead film. And a lot of people loved it. But for what I think, it's like the atmosphere of this original film. It just kind of like sits with you. It feels like you're stepping into 1978 all over again. And it just, I don't know. To me, that like the charm of it just could not be replicated. Similar to like the Halloween remake. It's like, like the zombie version. It's just like you can't bring back that feel that the original had. And this is kind of the same with the Dawn of the Dead. But yeah, to me, this is probably, I'm not a zombie fan. I think if you were to say like, it's October, you got to pick a zombie movie for your horror schedule, I would pick Night of the Living Dead, and that would probably be the only one I would choose. But if like you were to say, oh, come on, you got to put at least one more in there, then I'd say, all right, fine, whatever, I'll put Dawn of the Dead in there. So this one and Night are probably the only two that I even like teeter into or like tiptoe into or whatever. Everything else to me, it's just like, I'm not a Walking Dead fan. I'm just not into the genre. It's just not my thing.
Mm-mm. No, neither am I, which is weird. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know if maybe we would have stumbled across these when we were, in fourth grade. Would it have changed stuff? Maybe,
yeah. Like I don't know. It's just, I think maybe. Well, I mean, the Return of the Living Dead films were coming out. I don't know. Like the zombie thing to me is like, well, definitely now it's so played out. It's like, I mean, everything is, well, it's not as bad as it was a few years ago. But
not at all.
But for so long, it was like that's all you heard about was zombies. And I don't know. It's just, they're like the mindless, oh, I just want to eat you kind of thing. It just, I don't know, doesn't do it for me as much as like some of the other stuff, like the mindless, oh, I'll just kill you, like the slashers. I know it's all mindless, but anyhow. I don't know. I'll stick with Michael Myers and.
Yeah, see, I don't know if that's one of the things with some of these, which I don't know if it's that premise of it, because that always seems to be the kind of the plot point of a zombie movie is, the setting is different, but they always seem to kind of be the same.
Yeah.
We're holed up here and we're surrounded by zombies.
Yeah, and it's a cool premise, and I definitely think they did a great job with this one, with the whole mall thing. But again, it just, I don't know, it's just not my thing. There's so much more that I'd prefer to see in a horror movie, but this one, in terms of like, if for zombie films, this is definitely like up there on the top of the list for me. Oh, and by the way, if you ever decide to see Arnold Schwarzenegger's Maggie, which is
oh, yep, I saw that, yep.
I did not recommend that. I just want to let you know right off the bat that movie's terrible.
That was supposed to be his big comeback.
Oh gosh, yeah, not quite. Another thing too, zombie movies and Evil Dead movies just never, like, I don't know, hit my horror bone or whatever you want to call it. It's just like I can enjoy them for what they are, but they're like sort of like on the outskirts for me. I don't go back and revisit them.
Yeah, I hear you. I watched the remake of Evil Dead. I actually watched it because I was reading this article about the remake, if it actually was a remake, and because if you know the story of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are essentially the same movie, just with a higher budget.
Right.
And what Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi have said is Evil Dead 2 is not a sequel, it's a requel, which supposedly means like it's not this was before the whole reboot thing, so it's
yeah, I gotcha.
But it's basically it's not a sequel, but it's not a reboot, but it happens in the same universe. And I guess that the whatever that was, 2013 or whatever, when the new one came out, that is supposed to be kind of the same thing, that it's not a sequel and it's not a reboot or a remake, but that one was supposed to be a requel again, to where it's even though it's like the same events, it's not a remake, it just happens in the same universe.
Interesting.
So I was like, oh, cool, I'll give it a watch. And I watched the unedited version of that the most recent time I watched it. And I will say that, those are okay. I don't really consider those zombie movies necessarily, even though I guess they are. But, man, that unedited version of that is brutal. I mean, that is gnarly.
And maybe, we haven't hit any Evil Dead movies. Maybe that'll be next on our list.
Yeah, we'll add it to the list. So we're going to be doing this show the way the list is going right now till 2099 at this point.
And just to let all of you long-time listeners know, yes, we promise we will eventually get to Hello, Mary Lou. It is on the list. We are discussing it. We are processing through. We're trying to figure out when the best time to release that episode is. We just haven't come up with a date yet. So hang in there. It's coming. If we don't get it in 2019, we promise you sometime in 2020 or 2021.
Oh, I was going to say in the 2020s.
Yeah, it'll probably be in there somewhere.
You know what'll happen is we'll be like, all right, we're going to do the Hello Mary Lou episode, and then something will happen, and then I'm just going to do a 35-second episode and be like, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Life got in the way. Sorry. And then that's going to be it.
Yeah, we promise we'll get it. We're getting it. It's on the list. It's on the list.
All right, so I give Dawn of the Dead. I'm going to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Like I said, it is a watchable movie. It's just it really, really comes in at the low end of the beer and popcorn flick. If you have a stack of movies to watch, put this one or at the end of that or at the bottom of that. But if you've never seen Dawn of the Dead, it is one of those movies I think you do have to watch, because I don't know if the mall that's in this movie, I think it's still there. I don't know if it's actually open anymore or not. But I think you can still go to it, probably if you're gonna do a horror locations kind of thing. I think you can at least go and get your snap a picture in the parking lot. I don't know if you can actually go into the mall anymore.
Interesting. Yeah. I have no idea, to be honest with you. I know it was a mall at one time, but so yeah, go to the mall, go get your beer and popcorn, and go watch this movie, because I too give it a big thumbs up. For zombie films, this is one of the top ones for me. I don't think you get much better. I don't think you can do much better with the zombie thing. It's so, tired at this point. But this is one of the original ones from the master himself, George A. Romero. And if you like Night, I think you probably love this one.